Welcome everybody, Yankee Chronicles podcast. I'm Bobby, and I'm here with the women's group. I'm here with Cammie and Chris. How are you ladies doing today?
Hey, doing
well.
All right. And before we get started, we want to ask you to check out statementgames.com, where you can find a unique experience to your fantasy sports. Check out DocAdamsBaseball.org, learn about the father of baseball, and listen to us daily on RadioPlayLive.com at 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily. So we get to revisit Philadelphia today after they embarrassed us the other day. I love revenge games. I think they're a lot of fun. How do you think, Cammie? How do you think spring training is going for the Yankees so far overall?
Overall, I think it's going pretty well, because I think that I think that the mental game, the head game is at least half the battle.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've seen, these guys are pretty pumped up. They're excited to play. They're taking it really seriously. You see the interviews with them. I saw a couple of interviews with Taillon, with Cole, and they're anxious to get out there, and they're very, very focused. And we're seeing some good stuff from the new kids, from even the invited kids. That I think it was the first spring training game when we had a bunch of the invited kids on the roster, and they did really super well. So, I think that everyone is having some good moments, and it just needs to keep going in that direction.
Yeah. Chris, how about you? I know we talked the other day. You've had an eye on a few players. How are you feeling about spring training?
Well, it seems like spring training is going very well. We're getting on our eyes on Kluber and Taillon, which is everybody was dying to do, to see what their health level was. What could they bring? What will they bring? That hasn't been disappointing. We could talk about some of their numbers. We can, I was listening this morning, we can talk a little about Gleyber Torres, Gary Sanchez, both of them coming back into camp after having a down seasons, hoping to rebound. What have they done? That sort of thing. It's been a positive spring so far, I think.
No, I agree. Sanchez, I was talking with the guys the other day. He's just been a surprise this year. He's looks in better shape, but he also looks mentally he looks like he's improved.
Yeah.
He's doing well behind the plate with the communicating with the pitchers. They seem to be a little more comfortable with him, and his offense is kind of piggybacking on that, where you're seeing a lot better at bats. We were saying the most important at bats so far for him this spring has been that 7-pitch walk. Where there were those, there were 2 pitches that he normally would have swung at, that he's laying off because he knows he's not gonna be able to do much with it. So even if the umpire screws up and might call it a strike, I'd rather that than him just flailing at the ball.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Sanchez is really, he's got a big mark on him this spring, and I think he's owning it.
Yeah. I think the same is true for Gleyber. I think he's got a mark on him this spring. His defense was not good last year. He acknowledges it. I listened this morning to R2C2. I don't know if you enjoy that, CC and Ryan Rucco's podcast, but they interviewed Gleyber. And he talked about how he's come into camp more focused on his diet in the off season, because he came in, and they complained he came in out of shape last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things he's done to address that is he's changed his diet to a more healthy diet. Although he'd like to be eating pizza and burgers, he says, he knows that, it's the best for him and for his abilities to be on a better diet.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
And just in general, he's been more focused. He said he didn't take a vacation during the off season. He just put his nose to the grindstone and worked. So I'm hoping that we see a Gleyber Torres who's really focused and making the plays that he didn't make last year.
Yeah, no, I think he looked a little more. He's not racing out of the gate and trying to overplay his ability. He's just kind of letting the spring kind of get him to where he needs to be in a natural setting. And I think that's very important to him. We also
and a lot of that is, oh, sorry, go ahead. But a lot of that is maturity also, right? So as they get into their mid-20s, their later 20s, I think that players grow up. And you can see that in, Garrett Cole, he's like, what? He's at least 30,
Yeah, he's
right?
30.
Yeah.
So, when these guys who are like 30 and above, when they talk about the game, when they're interviewed, when they go out there and you can see their mindset, that's just experience and maturity. And I think it takes a few years to get there. And when you're 19, 20, 21, you're still at that age where it's like, woohoo. But I think as you continue to grow as a player, I think a lot of it is maturity, learning to just keep your head down and work in the off season, instead of, just party and vacation, learning to eat right, learning, all of that is just, I think, a part of growing up, and also having good mentors around you in the older players.
Well, I think another thing is when younger players come up in other for other teams, they come out of the gate and they do very well. And even, despite the pressures of having to perform on the big stage, now look at that through the Yankee lenses. When you're coming up and you're putting, you're in your rookie season, there's already a tremendous amount of pressure to perform. Now magnify that 10 times in the New York market, especially when you're a Yankee and you have the fan pressure alone can crumble somebody, never mind the performance.
Right.
And so I think, when you're talking about players like Sanchez and Torres, Andujar, even Clint Frazier, you're starting to see that they're getting over that mental hurdle of, okay, I can do this in New York. I just have to stay in my own lane and just play the way I need to play, and not thinking about, well, Tatis is already, labeled a superstar, but I'm the one in New York. So they put that added pressure on themselves. That's what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah.
Chris, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think that is a fair statement. They do put a lot of pressure. They feel the pressure from the fans. Who says they don't? I think they feel the expectations of the organization. You come to the Yankees to win. Gleyber Torres doesn't feel very good out there, not making more or less routine plays at shortstop. He does not want to perform that way. He's going to do everything in his power. And as Cammie pointed out, the more mature he's gotten, I think perhaps the more narrow his focus has gotten, that his life revolves around being successful on the baseball field. It involves my diet. It involves my family. It involves what I do with my time. That's just an outgrowth of being more mature. Yeah.
The other thing we saw Taillon's first outing, very easy inning to get through. And then we got to see the other side of his skill yesterday, where he had 2 innings, he gave up the 1 run, but getting out of that bases loaded jam.
Yeah.
I thought that was more telling of his ability than having the easy 1-2-3 inning. Cammy, I don't know. Were you able to see any of that, or?
I didn't see it, but I was able, to kind of read the highlights of the game,
Okay.
and watch. But yeah, I think that this is a guy who's very smart, and just when he's interviewed, he's quite reflective, and he realizes that he's been out of the game for a while. He realizes what he needs to do to get back in it, and I think this is a kid who's going to put in the work. And if he can get himself out of a jam, that's very telling of kind of his I think his just not his talent and ability, but also his work ethic to kind of think about things on a higher level. What's going on? What do I need to do in order to accomplish what I need to do? So he may end up being, I remember when we got LeMahieu, right? Everyone was like, who, okay, well, oh yeah, that guy, this may be another opportunity like that, just to have another great pitcher. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, the nice thing is he's already worked with Cole. Did they work together in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So they already know each other. And I think that's a big bonus when you have that support system, when you already have kind of a buddy in, playing the same position. And so I'm very excited to see what he can do. I'm just crossing my fingers it works out for him. So, yeah.
Yeah. And also, his introductory press conference, where he's talking about, the adrenaline rush, just putting the uniform on before even seeing the field. You could tell that he's one of those acquisitions that understands a Yankee mentality. And I think he's embracing that pretty well.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, he's excited. Yeah.
As far now, I'm going to read off the lineup for today's game, because we get to have a little revenge on Girardi for the last one. But before that, the last time that we faced Philly, the pitchers that they gave up all those runs weren't pitchers that were going to make the major league roster anyway. And so it was kind of like a throwaway game. Just all right, let's see what they can do, and they really didn't do much. And so today we have who's on the mound today? Today we have Montgomery on the mound.
Montgomery, yeah.
Who's a pitcher that I really think needs to come. He needs to perform this year. He needs to elevate himself. We need that lefty pitcher. That's not so much velocity, but location. I think he's a perfect fit for that. What we're going to have leading off is going to be LeMahieu. We're going to have Judge, Hicks, Giancarlo, Luke Voigt, Torres, Sanchez, Andujar, and Gardner's getting into his first game. I actually like the first five. I think that's a great balance. I like having Hicks between Judge and Stanton being that switch hitter. I think this is a lineup that they could really do damage with. Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that they can do damage with, but it goes back to a conversation we had last week. Will Gardy take at bats away from Frazier? And I realize that Gardy's got to get in eventually. And so this
Yeah.
is his first game. That's fine. But it's a valid question. And whenever I see Gardy in the lineup, I'm always going to be like, oh, it's not Frazier. Because I want him, Frazier earned it. I want him to have all the opportunities he needs to be successful out there. And he was successful out there.
Yeah. No, I think Cardi understands. He's at that point in his career. He knows that this is, his last ride.
Yeah.
I think he's mature enough. He's been around the game long enough to understand, what happens when you become a veteran and there's a younger player coming out of you, from behind you. And I think if anybody can handle it, it's Gardner.
Yeah.
Tammy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's in it for the love of the game. I think that he will have some clutch plays and some good at bats, because he always does. Whenever people discount Gardner, he always comes up with it, because it's just experience. But I do think he realizes that Clint Frazier needs to play. We haven't seen Clint Frazier play enough to really see what he can do. He's starting to play more now, and he needs that opportunity, because when Gardy retires, you want to put in somebody with a whole lot of experience. So we're going to have to give him the experience this year, and I think Gardner realizes it. But I don't discount Gardner for making some great plays or great at bats this year. He always comes through, and because he's been a solid player all these years. Yeah. So and he's a fan favorite, and so you're gonna have to put him in there a few times, just for the sake of the fan. But today is a good lineup. This is kind of a lineup that we'll probably see. Maybe minus Gardner, maybe Frazier in there, whatever. But this is the kind of lineup I'm expecting to see during the regular. Yeah, in the regular season.
Yeah. Andujar's tricky. I don't know what their plan is with him.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're gonna do. Yeah,
because you also have players that can fill in. That they could give in, spot start to in the lineup with Dietrich and Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's going to be, and also Tyler Wade.
I was going to say Tyler Wade. Yeah,
he has no more minor league options, so he has to. We're stuck with him now. So it's not like they could push him back down. They can't do that. They'd have to release him. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think they really put their backs against the corner with a player like Wade, because once spring training ends, you really don't see much from him. I always say, he's a spring training Hall of Famer, because in spring training, he always makes you think he's ready, he's going to break through, and then you don't really see much from him. So it just, it's something I say to myself to make myself laugh, because sometimes we have to remember that it's a game. We can't take it too seriously, and I never follow through with that, because, when they lose the opening game of the season, I lose my mind. So,
oh, I know.
So, most people stay away from me. So, but I think between Cashman and Boone, they're going to have a lot of hard decisions this year. But there are very few weak links on this team. So I think that we really, this season is more hopeful than, in my opinion, than we've had in the last couple of years. Do you guys feel the same way?
Oh, absolutely. When I look at today's lineup, even if we made no changes, I'd still like our chances to beat Philly. I still think that's a winning lineup, and it's a powerful lineup. Sure, I mean, you don't really want Andujar in there every day, but let's just say worst case scenario, you had to put up with Andujar at third base and Gardy in left field. You'd still win a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, regardless of who makes the roster and who gets cut, I really think we're in for a fun, exciting, and a dominant year. So, is there one team in the East that you think is a threat to the Yankees?
Well, I
Is there a
heard
team that could outplay them?
no, but I did hear someone speculate that the Blue Jays could win the AL East, and I laughed and laughed.
They don't have. They don't have. Lineup to lineup is fairly equal, but when you look at the pitching staffs,
they're pitchers,
right?
Yeah,
That's
where they can't compete with the Yankees.
No,
that's where they're going to fall down. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be. I think it's going to be a very interesting race. I just hope that the Yankees don't let it get to their heads that they are, that the Rays lost some key players. Boston's rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Boston's tearing it down to rebuild. Baltimore is still rebuilding. But
Mm-hmm.
they're not far behind. They're a couple years away where I think the AL East is going to be the most dominant division in baseball, not just the American League.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be fun to watch for a while. So, all right.
Yeah.
On behalf of everybody, YankeeChronicles.com, I hope everybody does have a good day. Ladies, thanks again for coming on with me today.
thank you.
Thank you.
These women chats they're so much fun. And it's more relaxing than the guys, let's be honest.
Of course.
Just hope everybody has a good day. Stay safe, stay smart, and always go Yankees.
All right.